So this is probably 5 to 6 months ago. Or less. I don't want to be. This is what I was writing about. Learning how to love and be loved as a journey. So the journey of learning how to love and be loved, I don't want to be an acquired taste, nor a taste that's good at first, but then easy to get sick of. I want to have joy on the journey where I don't need this head start finding. I want to have a natural blooming and pace and not rushing. And for me, love is also about learning how to trust my intuition and recognizing that sometimes I wished, so I could, so I did. The wish itself. And that when life is hardest and I feel the weakest is actually when I'm getting the strongest. This idea that it's also about practicing submission to love. Fulfillment and health and sharing resources for the wellness for my parents, not being afraid of my parents or my own vulnerability, and not taking the patterns personally, like risks, responsibility, mistakes, and disappointment and brokenness. Also, the opposite of the unrequited love dynamic, which feels like the worst nightmare, like not only just not being chosen, but like that the love is not returned, like it's a not mutual love. So the opposite is mutual love, where it's not believing in eternal fragmentation. When it's true love, it unites. And the patterns of lashing out when feeling unsafe, like exposed vulnerability, receiving love, paranoia, when gifts or strengths are revealed, is also this the eye. And the eye is like we make eye contact, like the eye contact we make with my eye and your eyes, my eyes and your eyes, but also the eye contact, the inner eye. And this is like the taking and giving. Will they take? Will they give? Is it over needing? Is it over sharing? They're really two sides of the same coin. And like the attractions often to people who I felt like I wasn't supposed to be with, like this man Natan, I felt like I wasn't over him when he left or he didn't want me because I used in a way spirituality to try to coerce him to like me. And even with my and then with these young men, like 18, 19-year-olds who seemed like innocent, like they weren't bitter yet, I felt like they could like me, they could like the real me without judging me or finding things wrong. Not to take advantage of them, but just to feel loved, like simply. There's a man in my life, but he's a priest according to the Jewish tradition, and I had been so worried that I was forbidden as a wife with him because everyone says if you had relations with non-Jews in your past, and I'm not a virgin, I had relations in the past, and I was around a lot of non-Jews, and I just didn't know. I mean, this is a rabbinical law, and I have my own long-winded discussions I could give about rabbinic law. I was seeing that I didn't want to be a cause for him to sin or to contaminate him. And my fears, for example, like of being invaded, I also didn't want to invade another. And even though there was a lot of good news with my dad, like we made a lot of progress individually and together, I felt there was also this sense that I didn't want to be the darkness for my father anymore, which I often did. It's better to be the light and the dark, the shadow and the brightness have inverse relationship, as illuminating is as shaded behind. So as bright is as behind itself, it's shaded, like the dark side of the moon idea. And this willingness to nurture myself and then others is like a big deal for me. It's part of love. And seeing what's in the shadow, like just mentioned, like the vulnerable, which could be the prey, or the scary, which is the predator. Both are hiding in the shadow, for example. Nuclear fission, the force of collision, is super generative, and the impact of two coming together makes something new in terms of causing a synergistic flaring release of power that blows like the mind, quote unquote, the mind of each of the two that had originally been separate individuals until the merging. And that could be related to the fear of being invaded, because now you have someone who could see you. There's also gratitude I had for people on the way and not having to be at any place completely alone without a witness seeing and being seen. There's always someone. May not have been who I thought it should be or how, but also each person having been so many different versions of people in the past and so many different versions of people to come. And each person represents, their parents, their grandparents, their great-grandparents. It's an audience of ancestors. Really, each person is a whole audience. We can give the other person the right to exit, a clean way out if that's what they want. Not as a bait, but in the spirit of fairness. Like, you could leave if you want. Not like, oh yeah, I'm going to hold it against you if you leave because I want to prove that you're really an abandoner. For me, having, and not just for me, having to process years of information in a particular person in a very short time, like when you fall in love, like, for example, with this man, Aaron, I was mentioning, for like a few weeks, it felt like it was just like flooding memories of all the times I'd met him over the last like 4 to 5 years, all these different moments of seeing him and integrating that all into one person, like with the new feelings I'd had, because I hadn't had those feelings before. And this idea of like, in learning how to love, it's actually a power to make the ugliness beautiful and the bitter into sweet, because it's possible to have a different perspective when the love collapses like the othering. So the ugly could be beautiful and the beautiful could be ugly, like in terms of perception. So what seems so ugly, you could find that like goodness core in it, or how it's really good when it seems so bad. So I want to kind of switch gears to wisdom. And this is also like a kind of love, because the willingness to feel the suffering and compassion is a type of wisdom, like the technology of wisdom. So there's wisdom of health and there's wisdom of sickness. There's wisdom of wealth and there's wisdom of poverty. There's wisdom of knowledge and there's wisdom of suspense. There's wisdom of loneliness and wisdom of connection, wisdom of unity and wisdom of tension, wisdom of fulfillment and wisdom of space, wisdom of charm and wisdom of modesty, wisdom of hiding and wisdom of honesty. And there is this idea of permitted and forbidden, like in the Torah Jewish world, but also we know in the world, healthy, unhealthy, toxic or tonic, this like black or white. So permission for people to be their real self, mutar is permission. So it's permitted. So the permission for people to be their real selves, that when the real self is permitted, since all actions and limbs and thoughts and words follow the real self, like all the self is coming along with it, the false self then becomes forbidden, versus making certain words, thoughts or actions or limbs forbidden. Asur means like bound. So it's, or maybe mutter is bound. I can't remember which one, but mutter means permitted and asur is forbidden. So the false self becomes forbidden. So becoming a self, like you don't allow yourself anymore to act on the falseness, which may have helped us survive in the past because there was no love and because we didn't have the vessel for wisdom. And my recovery meetings, because as a journey of love, so I want to share about this. Some grow by day, some grow by night. This is what I learned from recovery meetings. Some grow by day, some grow by night, sometimes by rain, sometimes by sun, but not too much, not too little. The light doesn't last forever, and the darkness doesn't either. People do sometimes want to be loved for the false versions. And I can stop trying to be loved for the false version, and that's to be in reality, not needing to prove anything for love. The pattern of being a salesperson and focused on the sale, being bought, is forgetting that there's life after the sale. It's like a hiccup, kind of, a mental hiccup. Kind of like when people live for the wedding and forget they have to now be married to somebody after the wedding. It's like you proved it, now you got it, but then there's life to come. Now you have to maintain it or enjoy it or continue to earn it. Leaving a world like where people hurt each other just because they can, the backdrop of abuse, as if there's no other way. Where corrupted leadership is not responsible for the welfare of others, instead hoards the gifts and resources that it can bestow. This parasitism, which is to take even when it harms the host, which will ultimately harm the parasite. So when somebody's like, I just so badly want the love that I'm going to force someone to love me, but then it hurts the lover that they're trying to get the love from, until the point where that person can't even give love. They're becoming, it can happen anytime someone is being used, when there can instead be circuitry. Accountability and service to the ones who offer the goodness, like love and gifts and support. So this would be like keeping healthy accounts, like, oh, that guy always gives me free samples. You would account for that when you have some samples that you want to give. It's like you do good to the ones who do good. You remember their gifts and support and love. And in male and female, like the terrorizer, the dictator, the abuser, and the family, society, and government, and the human organism and the world, this sense of the room for healing from parasitism and any kind of exploitation. And I was thinking this man, Natan, who's from my past, He made up a new reality to justify his positions and actions, like that I'd bother him for a month when I'd left him alone pretty much and barely spoken to him, that it's all one-sided, as if I'm delusional, when I was actually specifically responding to his intense interest and his delighting in me, literally the light in his eyes. I felt gaslit. Like a new reality suddenly existed where I was a burden and unwanted, and just because he wanted someone else that was maybe easier, or he wanted to dissociate, he was working 11 hours or more a day. Not wanting to lose the worldview that I'm precious and lovely and desirable when I make one person my whole world, because they can't possibly do it if they're the wrong person for that. Like if they can't see me as precious because of what they consider precious and because of what I'm showing up as don't match, then I'm, or lovely or desirable, then I'm going to lose my worldview that I am if I adopt their worldview. So I don't have to take on their values of what's precious. I can continue to believe I'm precious and then recognize that their worldview and my worldview are not compatible. And just because I wasn't born yesterday doesn't mean I can't access new, deeper, richer truths and correctness. It doesn't mean I wasn't honest yesterday, but it means I'm spiritually growing and fit. So I wasn't born yesterday like, wow, I'm an idiot, like just because I didn't like you think that I didn't know, but maybe I didn't know in the way that I could know today. Seeing it, whatever it was God, that all power to God and not another person, is the idea of that the stick is not the problem, it's the one holding the stick. So if God is making us have an experience, it's not the experience, it's the creator of the experience that's being given to us. So things often are not what they appear. What may appear even extremely desirable, actually like hardworking, handsome, clean, good, memory, today, that it seems that God is withholding, may actually appear unappealing tomorrow. Like it might seem cowardly, insensitive, short-sighted, immature. God knows all along. And also humility in realizing my limitations of observation, that my sight will fall off at a certain point. So that even though God knew all along and knows like what was being withheld was actually good for me to be withheld, like I could then become more humble and learn that maybe I couldn't see the whole picture. I couldn't see more of what was there. And in that uncertainty, I can learn that patience and tolerance, which is not something like I earned money and then I spend it. This patience and tolerance belongs to me and is mine, and I now can be served by that for my life. The patience and tolerance to let things become revealed. It's priceless. You cannot buy these good gifts from God with money, like patience and tolerance. And I will give a couple quotes, and then we'll go a little deeper here. So in terms of concealing things, King Solomon in Proverbs, Mishlei 25:2, he says, it's the glory of Elohim to conceal a thing, but the honor of a king is to search out the matter. And this is sort of like a way to look at it, like to search it out. Sometimes you don't find right away. You have to be patient and tolerant until it gets uncovered. But it's the glory of God to be able to conceal it, the goodness even. Also, I heard from the same person, King Solomon, Koheles, Ecclesiastes 5:5. He says, don't let your mouth cause your flesh to sin. So, like asking for something, or demanding something, or speaking in a way that doesn't serve us, like in other words, I feel it's a message that our bodies are listening. Aliza Rivka, she's this dance teacher, hostess of it's almost like the magic that comes from community, from women joining together in the field that grows. And so she had this light and dark equinox workshop, I think when it was at the equinox, and it was like the gift of the darkness is the acquisition of the night vision sensitivity I learned from attending her workshop. It's not like her words, but this is what I got out of it. Like, and I can't put the price on my time and energy. Rather, there's like this rain or shower that comes in fortune and blessing. So it's like you put in the time and energy, and then the rain shines on you. I mean, the rain like splatters on you. Also, this like tightening of old fear of cracking. Like I don't want to crack, so I get tight. But actually, the coldness leads to numbness, which leads to cruelty. But if I'm able to relax at that moment where I want to get tight and I can actually breathe, it's like a streaming feeling. Like things can come and go. And then I don't have to become cold and numb and even cruel to myself, God forbid, or others, or have those dynamics where I need someone else to be the cold, the numb, or the cruel, just to balance out. tightly, both people tight, overly rigid. When everything is falling apart and life is in pieces, there's this sense that I have visualized a bunch of times with a watch that's with all its gears, or like all its like parts, and it's being reassembled perfectly to like it just doesn't look like it yet because it's not all put together. And also like the Mishkan, the tabernacle for the Jews in the desert, how it was like put together perfectly, like it was in pieces, it wasn't falling apart, it was just being reassembled. And then I had a conversation with Aaron, the man I'd mentioned recently. It was a few months ago, but that one of my needs as divine feminine is the confidence. I'm not the only one that's in the boat pursuing, laboring for the sake of l'shem yechad, for the oneness of man and woman, feminine, masculine. I also need to be voluntarily sought out with interest and curiosity on a daily basis. I have to say that there's been very little progress here, but that also at the same time big changes. And I also told him that I need to get patience and forbearance for the many new iterations the divine feminine takes in the ever evolving flesh costume of Sheinah. So it's like I'm like God's like wearing me, the feminine presence is like wearing me and acting and talking and living through me. So I deserve patience and forbearance the same way. Like, in other words, if I'm having a creator and then the creator uses me, this is how we have a higher self-regard and self-worth, is that now we also, as godly beings, living that way, not in the false self, but in the true self, also deserve patience and forbearance. And it serves the other people for life, And I explained to him that a man who thinks after not taking good care of a wife will have ease in escaping via a second wife, like running to someone else, he's forgotten that in his reactivity to his inadequacy in properly caring for his prized possession, that he'll actually become paranoid that she or me, whoever the woman is, the second woman, is going elsewhere for a better man, who cares for, values her better, like the first woman or the second woman. Like, if you run away, then why shouldn't she? She's reflecting you. So a liar, and also the idea that a liar suspects that others lie, a cheater is suspicious others cheat, and a man who uses and dumps women will be afraid of being used and dumped. In fact, if the man pushes her away or displeases her, she too has the power to go to someone else, and he's not the only one who could get a second one when he feels the first one is driving him crazy. And she only could be said to owe loyalty and commitment to a man who nurtures with care and bravery. These two people in the relationship, and I like the word ship because it's like a good container for this idea, are both responsible for the ship. Both people are in the ocean if it sinks. If he jumps ship and is in someone else's boat because he wanted someone else better, or who seemed like they would be more, or offer his false self or something, like the easy way out, right? Like dissociate and disconnect and then run after and whatever. Her real husband will arrive, she'll kick him out of the boat, right? And then, like this, let's say, I'm going to give an example. Let's say I'm in a boat, God forbid, and the guy goes in someone else's boat because my boat, he feels it's too much work for him. He has to take care of the boat, and he doesn't want it. He wants to go to someone else's boat where they're taking care of it, and he could just exist in there. Actually, what happens is that woman, her real husband, comes in the boat, and he's going to be willing to take care of the boat together, and then she kicks him out. So what? She'll still kick him out. Does he skulk back to the first wife who now had to take care of the boat by herself, hoping she didn't replace him with somebody else? So when he felt unworthy, his insecurities became loud, and he became toxic and ungrateful, and to the humble and the healthy, and he became cold and cruel to the kind. So when you feel inadequate and unworthy, you don't trust what what you're being given is for someone who's worthy. So this is like healing. This is the healing of where we can actually have a vessel for unconditional love, learning to love and be loved on the journey. To feel worthy of it, to have the self-regard, to feel to feel loved and to love. Okay, that's all for today. Shavua Tov. Bye-bye.